Welcome! Number one. Bengals Podcast.
Oh, yeah.
I'm your host, Teddy McDuke. I am joined as always by Dr. Hoji Director Kismoji.
Namaste.
And Johnny Mitchell Sheeran.
Don't know what you got till it's gone.
And of course, we have HR present in the room as always.
Always present.
Per corporate, yes.
Which is
Making
more
us
than
all
we can
feel
say
safe.
for you.
Yeah, where are you, Daddy? You look very frozen.
He's there. He's just not moving.
Well, the thing is, I believe in basic human rights, and the internet is one of those rights. I refuse to pay my internet service, and we are seeing where it goes. I'm trying to get the Supreme Court. Supreme Court has been on a roll. I think they are going to continue to rule in my favor, so we will see. Look. Oh, and also HR, I'm sorry. We always forget HR is a superstar, and you don't even need to say her name. I'm assuming the pronoun.
I would like for you to say
but-
it because I would like to see if now, after 4 months on our show, you know.
That is ridiculous. Of course, I know what Bristol Jankarski's name is.
Bridget
And-
Jenkars.
Close in the last name, kinda.
Yeah.
It was better.
Bristol there is no woman on earth named Bristol.
Well, that is insulting to women and to Bristol, right? Tell
There
them.
is, though, Hoji.
Yeah.
Sarah Palin's daughter was
Wow.
of
Do you
the
see that?
2008 election fame, Bristol Palin.
See how
now- and-
he man-explained to me,
And
not
now
to
I see
you.
how it
You're
got
not
in
a
your
man,
head.
but yeah.
Yeah.
Look, we have a very
I can see
special.
Russia from where I'm sitting.
Yeah. But look, we have a lot to get to. Okay, a lot to talk about. But before we do, Courtney is back, and she wants us to talk about her newest show. Last week, of course. I mean, she has been lining up the podcast. Let's be honest. We talked last week about President Joe Biden, and before Alex Jones, and now she has. Let me just get the copy here. Elon Musk has a new podcast.
Wow.
Elon Musk, and it is called "They Hate Me Because They Ain't Me," and he reads a list of all the things that he can do that other people can't, or he can afford that other people can't, and he is intending on buying podcasts, the whole podcasts, everyone, including ours, but he wants to start with his own first. And some of the things he talks about, it's fascinating. The things that he can buy that other people can't. Like, did you know that Elon Musk has a nose hair stylist?
Wow.
I didn't know this existed.
No.
And and what else? Let me
I
see.
could use an ear hairstylist. That's great.
Yeah, he has a royal sniffer. So he has someone who sniffs things in his house to tell him like if his shirt needs to be washed or not. He never has to sniff anything again. Yeah. And his
Love it.
teeth are actually made they're made of cloudy diamonds. His teeth. So that is
You got any
Musk.
more?
And-
Musk.
I mean, there's a whole podcast, John. Just go check out the podcast on Brinks.tv. Courtney is very excited about it. And so let us get right to the news. Okay. Oh, by the way, you can go to patreon.com/theageofsports to support the show. So let us get to the news, John. Everybody, yeah. So the Jesssie Bates, who we love very much on the show. John has a very, very interesting ideas about this, but essentially he saw that in John's estimation, to man explain for John, he saw that the contract negotiations were going nowhere, and so he took it upon himself to say, look, I'm sitting out camp. And the thing is, if he gets injured in camp, I mean, come on, this man is losing tens of millions of dollars, right? So he's not going to play in camp. He's not going to play on a deal he doesn't like. And he's 24 years old, John? I mean, he sits out the year. That doesn't really hurt his value that much in terms of age. And everybody knows his ability, but they know what he can do physically. And so, he didn't have a great year last year before the playoffs, but in essence, people who want that kind of safety are going to pay for it, even not having played for a year. So, John, I know you have a lot to say.
Yeah, I think we don't know for a fact if Jessie Bates is actually going to hold out for the entirety of the 2022 season, even if he doesn't get a new deal from the Bengals. I think the situation is actually very comparable to what Le'Veon Bell went through with the Steelers, because initially the Steelers tagged him in 2017. Bell did not sign the franchise tender that offseason up until right before the 2017 season began, but he actually ended up playing, and then he got tagged again, and the whole thing ended up. And I don't think the Bengals are going to go down entirely that road that lasted 2 years. But I think when it comes to Bates, he's not going to pass up playing for $13 million. But this right now is just him unloading the last iota of leverage that he has, because unfortunately he doesn't have a ton remaining. The Bengals drafted his replacement in Dax Hill. They might have drafted two potential replacements in Dax Hill and Tyson Anderson just 3 weeks ago. The Bengals have an offer for Bates. They probably aren't going to budge. You don't do this if you are close to reaching the deal that you want. You do this because you're trying, if anything, if possible, to get the other side to budge. And it doesn't seem like the Bengals are budging or they will budge at all. So again, there's the July 15th deadline. But if this is happening, if he's going to hold out and not participate in camp, which I would think is entirely likely at this point, then I don't think that the deal is going to come. And unfortunately, he's not going to pass, even though he doesn't want to play on the tag and doesn't want to get hurt before that long-term extension. I don't really see him sitting out the entire season, but I do see him actually going through with these threats of not participating in off-season workouts and therefore training camp.
Okay, John Johnny Mitchell's here. Listen, I need you to explain this to me like I am just a little 2-month-old baby. Okay? Just put it simple. This is a man who stopped a potential touchdown in the Super Bowl. This is a man who had the highest graded Bengal in the playoffs. This is a man who basically was the powerhouse behind our secondary, right? I mean, this is an amazing.
Well, yeah, I mean, the other defensive players are saying it basically.
Okay. So now that's setting up the question. Now, is a wide receiver that much more valuable, A? And why isn't it possible to pay both of them, B? So it's a two-part question. Is T. Higgins, and I love T. Higgins, but is T. Higgins really that much more valuable than a Jessie Bates, who has made such a tremendous difference, considering that the defense was really the star of the show in the playoffs? That's A. B, why not pay both?
I feel like, John, before you answer, Hoji, you gave Bates is phenomenal. And did Bates really play that way a full season?
No.
I mean, he showed up that way in the playoffs.
Yeah.
We got okay, John, go.
But that's when it matters.
Well, and not only that, but hold on. The Bengals didn't play like that the whole season. The Bengals defense balled out in the playoffs. That's how we got to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So really, that success that we saw, that potential, the team coming together in the playoffs was largely driven by Jessie Bates. If this team is going to be a contender and have that playmaking defense, it's going to be with Jessie Bates as the centerpiece. Go, John.
If we had won the Super Bowl, Jessie Bates would have been most valuable player. If we had won.
Maybe him, maybe Logan Wilson, maybe T. Higgins. I don't know. But if it was the playoffs, he was the most valuable player of the playoffs without a doubt.
The Bengals paying or not paying Jessie Bates, I don't think has anything to do with T. Higgins. I think people have brought up T. Higgins because A, he's due for an extension next year, and B, he shares the same agent, David Mulugeta, who just got Deshaun Watson, that monstrosity of a deal 2 months ago. I think the Bengals have a price for Bates. They have a certain quantitative value for him and does not match what Bates values himself at. And Bates is 100% free to believe that and to do everything in his power to eventually get that, because I think we can all agree that despite the fact that he wasn't as consistent in 2021 as he was in 2020, he would have gotten the deal that he wanted in free agency had he been allowed to enter free agency. And I just think in general, people don't realize how volatile and how high variance the safety position is, even for the elite players. For example, Justin Simmons got a 4-year, $60 million deal with the Denver Broncos last year, and he had his worst season leading up to the year that he got the extension. But everyone knows that Justin Simmons is a bona fide top 10 player at his position, arguably top 5 player at his position, the safety position. It's very common for players to go through these highs and lows at that position because it's like cornerback. It's like just defense in general. Consistency, specifically at the high level, is not always sustainable. That's just the nature of the position in general. But what's undeniable is that when Jessie Bates is on, he's unlike most players in the league, and that's where his value derives from.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Well, it's a two-part question. That was part one.
Well, let me answer. Let me say something about that.
I already answered about Higgins though. Like it doesn't matter what the.
I just wanted to get more to say because I have more to say.
Just to feed off of what John's saying, Jessie Bates. Okay, he said how the contract was distracting him, and it was not like he was a bad player. He didn't make as many big plays as before, and and really, go ahead, Hoji.
Okay, time out now. I want to go way back to about 3 years ago or 2 years ago. And it was me and John Joni Mitchell-Siren, and we were on the show. And I said something dumb because I speak through inspiration. It comes to me from above. I don't know where it comes to me from. I said that this defense will work so beautifully together that there won't be any stars. And John corrected me and said, you know what? That's a bad way to think about defense. These guys are individuals and they each bring their own talent. Now, I'm imagining myself as a Logan Wilson. I'm imagining myself as a DJ Reader. Doesn't not paying Jessie Bates send them a message that you don't matter, that you are part of a unit, you are expendable, you are not the stars of this show, it's all about offense, go get lost, and that this star-studded defense, which is probably the best in the NFL, could come crumbling down next year when everybody sees this as a gig that could, no one cares about you. John.
It is funny how those narratives kind of die when you get to certain players who are asking for certain deals, because the Bengals had no issue paying Sam Hubbard, 4 years, $40 million, because like $10 million of that was guaranteed. It wasn't very high compared to other defensive ends. Like they didn't have any issue paying Joe Mixon, who meant about the same as Jessie Bates does on offense. When you talk about their leadership abilities, it's all dependent upon how much the player is actually making. It's why the Bengals have never really gone out and signed the very top of the free agent market, because those guys demand deals that the Bengals aren't comfortable giving. And maybe the Bengals change their ways for a very specific few. I'm talking about Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. I don't think they're going to do that with Jessie Bates. And now that's why we're at an impasse here. So the Bengals recognize the value that Jessie Bates has. That's why they're trying to get an extension done with him. The Bengals players realize, what the Bengals are as a business, as a franchise, and they recognize what Jessie Bates is doing. I just think all these things can coexist as one, and no one here is really the bad guy, and there's not going to be anything necessarily negative that comes out of this. It's just a partnership that might just come to an end.
Yeah, but it's just, I don't know, John. We could see with Jessie Bates, if they do get the deal done, that's one thing. If they don't, I think we could have a very bad future with David Mulligatawam. He had like half of our roster, is he's the agent. Yeah. And the thing is, he is, at the forefront of this kind of pushing for the NBA type of deals, getting the most guaranteed money. And the Bengals are the exact opposite of the spectrum. So something has to give, maybe it's Joe Burrow, maybe it's the way that Tom Brady could get people to, stay on the Patriots. Maybe it's like, maybe go back to the Super Bowl and these guys are like, you know what? I buy into that. I'm going to do it the Bengals way. And maybe that forces.
I really want to know what they give Joe Burrow.
They're going to pay him market value. It's going to be, they're not going to, we talked about
what is market value for Joe Burrow?
Right now it's 15 billion,
I would say.
What, 40?
Billion.
Yeah.
$1 billion a year.
I'm fine with that. But, John, speaking of Joe Burrow, very interesting. We're talking about breaking news, John. He said in the interview that he was trying to go to Chase on that go route, the last play of the Super Bowl. He knew that Chase had beaten him, and he said, I just didn't have enough time. So that's putting some salt on that wound. But, we would have had a walk-off, 70-yard touchdown in the Super Bowl, won the Super Bowl.
I love remembering that play.
Yeah. So I just wanted to bring that up, which brings us to the next topic. A lot of people are saying, the Bengals this, the Bengals that. They are the 4th best in the AFC North. They are like the 20th best team. I don't know what they're basing. This is what we call passive regression. They didn't do anything to regress. They didn't, right? They didn't. There's no signs that they're going to regress. They're not old.
No,
they didn't lose people in free agency.
People are saying they got lucky and are overrated.
Right. They're saying they got lucky and overrated because it's the Bengals, and they had the Cinderella kind of a story where they took people by surprise, and it wasn't like one of those teams where it's like, this team is going to be a scary, and then all of a sudden they put it all together. It was a team like, this team is a mess. This roster needs to be completely overhauled, and they did it in 2 years. And everybody is like,
devil's advocate. I mean, you watch the playoffs. There were no
luck.
There was no stunning victories.
No, there was
no. They played. Joe Burrow's getting tackled every 2 seconds.
Yeah.
We barely won every game.
Well, but that's the playoffs. That makes it.
Have you seen Cinderella? That's exactly what it's about. It's the clock is striking 12.
Yeah.
And you got to go get your glass slippers.
Right.
That is the Cinderella story.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is this. That is exactly why I don't think that they are frauds. Because here's the thing. When I think of frauds, okay, I think of the 1998 Atlanta Falcons, right? Not that they're fraud, but I mean, I think of these teams that just kind of everything was going right for them, and then they get to the Super Bowl. The 2015, Carolina Panthers, or teams like where it's like they just go from being average to like 15-1, 14-2, and everything's just going right. It's their year, the whole year. And then they get to the championship and they don't quite have the physicality. The Bengals were the opposite.
Yeah.
They were gritty, fighting the whole year. The playoffs, every game, they didn't have that explosive offense. They didn't have these blowout victories. They were just like, they fall behind, they come back. They were playing very physical teams, and the Titans and the or they were playing the most explosive off. It doesn't matter. They were going to fight and find a way. So and they remind me, just one last thing, John. They remind me of those wild card teams that won the championship, like those Ravens, was 2012, I think, the Packers that one year, the Steelers that one year. These teams that were wild card teams, and then they caught fire because they fought so hard. That is what the Bengals represented more than those fraudy 14-2 teams. Go ahead, John.
Well, you got your.
Go ahead, OG.
Yeah, I mean, you got your. I mean, no, I want to support and agree with what you're saying. You got. If you look, they have a Rocky Balboa type character, and Rocky 1 leads to Rocky 2, leads to Rocky 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and now 8. So I think that this is a dynasty, and it's Zach Taylor's dynasty. Something we don't talk about enough. It is Zach Taylor's dynasty.
He is technically the coach. Yes,
he is technically the coach.
Joe Burrow is the quarterback, though.
That's true. When I look at the Bengals last year, I think there's some things that are counteracting each other. I think when you look at how healthy they were, that might not be sustainable. I think when you talk about some of the times where Evan McPherson kind of bailed them out, that might not be sustainable either. Just in general, defense, they were really good last year at times. That's not always sustainable. Defense is very volatile, even though they have a very solid unit. There are some things that could regress back to the mean with the Bengals. But then logistically, you look at a team that didn't have a very good offensive line. In fact, porous might be like kind of sugarcoating it. And you still had a passing offense that developed and matured into one of the very best in the league. Passing offense, that is what is sustainable for a lifetime in the NFL. You're talking 5-10 years. That is how you consistently maintain yourself at the top of the AFC or whatever conference or division you want to talk about. Then you just look at the number of games that they won and how many they were expected to win. So Pro Football Reference has this expected wins and loss formula that they go for various factors that are very sustainable and really indicative of actual team success. The Bengals were expected to win, according to this formula, 10.5 games last year. I don't know how that's possible. Maybe a tie is involved there, but they won 10. So they were technically under their expected win total. Most of the teams in the AFC playoffs, you're talking about the Titans, the Steelers, the Raiders, the Chiefs, most of them exceeded their expected win total. So you're looking at other teams that are good in the AFC, other teams that are expected to compete, that kind of overachieved last year based off certain things. Those are the teams I think that are more likely to regress because they actually got lucky at times, and they did things that weren't necessarily sustainable, but they just found ways to win. Just because you find ways to win in 1 year doesn't mean you will be able to keep up that level of success if you don't do these sustainable things at a high level consistently. The Bengals have shown that they can do that when the pieces are rolling. They have the pieces now to continue that on offense because of their offensive line. So I just think in general, compared to at least other teams that were successful last year, at least in the AFC, the Bengals are set up for more sustainability than some of the other powerhouses.
That was a beautiful
That
analysis.
was good, John.
I love it. You got to call him John Julia Childs, Sheeran, because he put together a little recipe. He put it in the oven, and he beautifully, using numbers, explained to us that the Bengals were underachieving. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, logistically though, like you have a top quarterback, right? And you have this amazing set of receivers and a defense and this terrible offensive line. And like,
it doesn't, John.
It was possible that they didn't even make the playoffs last year. Like they had to get kind of lucky down the stretch.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
What we do, we went 10-7, and I jotted this down. There were 5 games too, at least 5 games that I could think of: San Francisco, Green Bay, Chargers, Chicago, Jets. We didn't play great in all of those games, but we could have won all of those games, right? Chargers, we were down 0-24 in the first quarter, and we came back. Mixon doesn't fumble, and I think we're going to win that game. And I think what we're going to see this season, and John, maybe this is what you were saying, or maybe this is just what I wanted you to be saying, I think there's less volatility in some of these games. And instead of sort of the coin flip on whether or not we win, or there's some of these close games, I think we're locking some of these up quicker and more handily this year. So my prediction, I can't remember if I said this on the show last week, I said it on Twitter, my prediction for the season is 12-5, and I feel really confident in that. I don't think we regress this season. I think we're sustainable this season.
Absolutely.
Well, the interesting thing about that, Bridget, I'm glad you brought that up, because close game regression is very real. Teams who do really well in one-score games in 1 year, they typically don't sustain that success the next, and their total win value actually decreases. For every time the Bengals won at the gun against the Vikings and the Jaguars and against the Broncos, if you will, they had those moments against the Bears and the Jets and the Packers specifically. I think they were under 500 in games that ended with a score differential of less than 8. So that is a sign that A, when they were winning by typically a lot, and B, there's not a lot from last year that says, that's not going to happen this year. You know what I mean? It's not like they got completely lucky in a lot of these wins.
I mean, these are really, really great points. Yeah. But I want to, for me, the real fabric of a team doesn't show itself until the postseason. Right. I've seen it way too many times in the NFL and the NBA. Being a great regular season team is a completely different thing from a great postseason team. Right. And the only time a great postseason team goes to being a bad team is injuries or age or things like that. You don't have a young, talented, good postseason team that can play, that can bounce back from a deficit and just keep fighting. You don't see a team like that regress. That's one thing. The second thing is this: we have never seen Joe Burrow be LSU Joe Burrow. In that, we saw it a few times. We saw it against the Chiefs, where he threw 500. I mean, this guy, if his game from college, when it translates to the NFL, he's going to be, setting records. He's going to be throwing 45 touchdowns, 50 touchdowns a year. That is who Joe Burrow is. And he has the weapons to do it. The reason he wasn't is because we had to have a game plan that didn't allow him. We talk about his sacks and this and that. And who was it? That was John on Twitter. Who was recently talking about? Was it Sands and somebody else? I think they're talking about that. Yeah, Joe Burrow took sacks, but I mean, it's because he's trying to make stuff happen. It's not like he doesn't know how to move. And I think Sands had like a 2.5 minute thing.
Yeah, he wasn't running into sacks. It was sacks being happened to him.
Sacks happen because this man plays for he plays for the big time. He's not going to be on a team that scores 17 points a game. He's trying to get 35 points a game, and he hasn't been able to do that with that offensive line. We talk about the offensive line just absolutely couldn't give him that opportunity, And so I think the Bengals offensively are going to be significantly better. In the playoffs, John, we talked about, they never, what was their high? Was it 27 points, right? I think in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And in the regular season, they averaged like 27.5 points. They never even technically hit the regular season average, right? And so I think they're going to be plus 30 points a game. this season.
Let's not forget that one of the reasons that people are saying this year is going to be different is because the AFC now has Deshaun Watson on the Browns. But the most recent news that I saw, it's not looking good for Deshaun. So I saw that it's basically saying that he admitted that he made a masseuse cry. Now, I full disclosure, I have made a masseuse cry, but it was a body odor issue. But I think in his case it was not, and it was it was something much more nefarious. Yeah. So I think that I'm going to go back on what I said in previous shows. I don't think Deshaun Watson plays most of this season. So what else you got in the AFC?
Well, I mean, the Bengals have to. We're going to have a whole discussion about how the AFC is going to play out. But let's just talk about the AFC North. Yeah, John is right. The Steelers are zombies. I mean, they just don't die. But I'm not really worried about them being at the top of the AFC North. They could be in the wild card hunt and all that. The Ravens are the other talented team. They're the other really stacked team.
They're afraid of us, though.
I mean, I'm sorry, but if we're going to have a game where it's like you're going to have to win with your arm and you're going to have to make the clutch plays, I'm taking Joe Burrow over Lamar Jackson every time. So that's the way I look at it. Yeah, I mean, if it's going to be
what sensible team in the NFL would take anyone over Joe Burrow unless they're lying?
Well, let us move on because we have other topics to get to. And this is our new segment. We're going to talk about training camp. It's called Camp in Your Mood. And Tarikius Maximus Tisdale, John. This man, very, very athletic. I have the stats here, and it says, John, he ran, let me just see if I understand this right, 4.6 miles in 40 seconds. Okay? And
that's got to be...
Say that again, and imagine if it makes sense to you.
Okay.
I don't think my Tesla could do that.
Oh, sorry. 4.6 miles
meters.
Meters in 40 seconds. And defensive assistant Mark Duffner is saying he's intriguing, he's relentless. This man is long, he's tall, he's big, he is hard. I don't know. He's all the great physical elements.
Give us Tarikius Maximus.
John.
Gladiator.
Yeah, he might actually be Greek with those dimensions and that size. I think it is because of like the physical dimensions and the athleticism. I think that's why he's making an impression in camp right now. It's just a lot of drills. It's just a lot of just moving around in shorts and shirts, and we'll see what he is when the pads come on. But at Ole Miss, he played at a good program. He's got the athleticism. He's got the size to make noise, but he never really established himself as a starter. I think he only had 800 career snaps, and part of that was because he was injured, I believe, in 2021 for most of the season. So unfortunately for him, that's one of the reasons why he went undrafted. He was a community college transfer from Northwest Mississippi, ended up at Ole Miss, and again, never really did much there. But I think there's a chance that he's just one of those guys that just does more in the NFL with an increased opportunity. And the increased opportunity here is important because the Bengals don't really have a ton of defensive tackles right now. I think they only have 6 on the roster, and he's one of them, and they might keep 5. So out of all of the college free agents that they brought in, he might have the least resistance or competition to actually make the 53-man roster, and that includes injuries that are inevitably going to happen. He's going to get opportunities in the preseason, but really fast, really explosive, really long. They have a need at that position. It's possible they make some noise.
That'd be great. Yeah. Now, what was all this that I've been reading about Zach Taylor shortening the number of days of practice from, 3 to 1?
Well, it's the opposite of the daddy-o. He believes that, certain breaks at a certain point after exerting yourself hard at work, it could be beneficial in the long run instead of just continuing the grind here.
Well, then I might have to change my opinion on regression because that doesn't sound like a great plan. That's exactly how you get complacent. But look, John, the defensive line, really, we need it to be beefier. We need it to be bigger, right? But in reality, John, one of the areas that we could see regression is because, like you said, we had a great conversion rate of pressure to sack, right? And we can't count on that. Trey Hendrickson, if he's healthy, we expect him to be an elite pass rusher once again. But that is it. That is our only established elite passer. Sam Hubbard, by the way, I mean, you can talk to Sam Hubbard, but what I saw from him in the playoffs was impressive. he had two back-to-back sacks in the end of the fourth quarter against the Kansas City Chiefs, which he may be emerging. But what do you think about that? Let's get to that real quick.
No, both sacks I think came from when he was originally a linebacker at the beginning of the play, and the play just was elongated because
he held on to the ball a long time.
Yeah, like that's like some sacks are on the quarterback, right? You can't hold the ball for 10 seconds in the pocket or else the linebacker is going to blitz up the middle and take you down. That's what Sam Hubbard did. And that's the beauty of Sam Hubbard because he's versatile. He's athletic enough to be just put in space and read the quarterback's eyes and make decisions from there. But as a true pass rusher, and the ways that Trey Hendrickson wins as a pass rusher, he's never quite going to be at that level, which is why they're so dependent this year on Joseph Ossai. Joseph Ossai.
That's what they get to. Yeah. So along the lines, that's the topic is Joseph Ossai. Go ahead, please.
Relief.
Yeah.
So you couldn't just let that subheading change and let me continue talking. You had to interject there.
I had to. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Joseph Ossai is basically their addition this year because they didn't add an edge rusher through the draft or free agency. They're counting on him to be healthy for starters. He still needs to get back to 100%. And to be that burst of speed and explosion off the edge that neither Hendrickson or Hubbard can really be at this point in their careers. He's 22 years old. He was insanely productive and athletic at Texas coming out of college. That is what they need. Like they need that third pass rusher to take some pressure off of Sam Hubbard because Sam Hubbard played like 1,000 snaps at defensive end and defensive tackle. He was overexerted because of the lack of depth at defensive line, specifically edge rushers. So I think Ossai's main responsibility is to take some of those third down snaps from Hubbard, or they can use Hubbard in different areas on third down where they don't have to put him at the edge. But that's where Ossai should do most of his damage. And if he's as good as we think he is, I think he will probably be second in this team in sacks.
Well, that's interesting. You're talking actually about Ossai as relieving them of some snaps and of some of that exhaustion. But I think this topic, John, is about him, Ossai of relief, because it came out that he had another surgical procedure, which had us very worried. But it turns out that it'll only be for a couple of weeks that will be out, and he should be back by July. He's already sprinting. So that's what I wanted to talk about, is that it seems like it's a kind of, what was it? Is it cleaning out the knee, I think? Like, I do this all the time with my ears. Big deal. I don't know why they call it the surgery, but you're just cleaning out the junk, right?
Well, the ears have a hole in them. That's why.
Yeah, but that's the thing. When you tear your meniscus, like we talked about, which I do all the time.
You think the holes are still there?
Oh, they filled. Oh, well, he went to a nice place. See, that's the difference. He went to a fancy.
We'll talk about that in Global Employee Health and Fitness Month.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that really Ossai is the kind of, we're banking on him, and if it doesn't work out, then if the pass rush is average, then we're going to need that backfield, that ball hawking backfield to defensive backfield.
Expect Ossai to overperform, and here's why. He's an Aries, and Aries are humble people. They don't show off, and so he hasn't shown us. We haven't seen yet really how much he can do. You expect great things from Ossai, really. I do.
Wow.
I think he's great.
Yeah. Wow.
Babyface or no? I think he's kind of a babyface too.
Kind of. He's got a sort of a middle school face.
Yeah. Well, so let us. We were saying.
4.
Yeah. So look, the Bengals are exercising. They are taking care of their employees, and I know that Bridget is very passionate about that. So, please.
Well, it is global. This isn't just national. It is Global Health and Fitness Month. And that we've been talking a lot about all the ways to take care of ourselves. And this is really about making sure employees are healthy, are fit. We know that when people are less stressed, they feel better at work. Daddy, I know you care. People perform better at work. Human beings are more than just production, but we all know you don't care about us any more than what we produce. But healthy employees are less stressed because they have increased blood flow. So even doing things like having activity or stretch breaks, getting up during the day and having movement incorporated helps. You see energy and motivation lead to heightened mental activity. So I thought we could all talk about how Daddy-O helps us celebrate or encourage our...
I'm sorry, Bridget, really quick, I have a question. So you're saying stress is bad, is what you're saying?
Yes,
that's your premise
it's
here.
horrible.
Okay.
It's horrible.
Well, because I'm just saying, but it also makes you more productive and on your toes, like a little mouse that's running,
it
right?
doesn't. I mean, stress...
Durable on a wheel.
Stress...
Did you just compare us to rodents?
No, running from a predator, if you don't have a stress, you're going to give in. You're going to lose the game. And we are at this company at D&H Sports. We are not settling for just the loosey-goosey kind of ratings.
2 mice fell into a bucket.
I'm sorry, Bridget. I'm not understanding. If you guys are not feeling stressed, what am I doing wrong?
Well, you could trim your mustache. I never realized how hairy that mustache is until it was frozen in the show and you gave it a zoom up of your mustache. You got to trim that baby.
I'm not Elon Musk, okay? I don't have a mustache hair stylist, okay?
No, so we do need to be less stressed. And so one of the things that Daddy-O tries to make me do to get steps in, the office building across the street has free coffee in their lobby, and he'll be like, "Oh, go get your steps in by getting me a coffee." Across, and I mean that's nonsense. And
what am I supposed to do? Ask John. He is a senior intern now. He doesn't do those things for me.
Yeah,
that is all new now, Bridget.
But we could have beverages in the regardless. Hoji John, how are you embracing Employee Health and Fitness Month?
I've always been a health nut, Bridget, as you know. I'm vegan. So my doctors have told me I don't need to exercise because I eat so well. So basically my exercise is my vegan diet, which I have maintained for the past 10 years. And I mean,
his intestines are always moving, is what he means. They're always active. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is gross.
Yeah.
And you may need to seek other medical attention, or other medical advice.
Well, I meditate. I do yoga, but not the stretchy part, the meditation part. And I do a lot of mental exercise. Yeah.
John, before you go, I just feel like we have to call out the comment about the man or the person who's been watching since you guys were two-dimensional. Daddy-O still is, so...
That's true. Daddy-O's two-dimensional today.
Well, just figuratively, literally, all of the things. I needed to get a burn in for you, Hoj.
Oh, it was
John,
a good one.
It's not. If you have to name your own burn, it's not a good one.
No, it's okay. I just was late on the support.
I miss the days when Daddy was two-dimensional. He wasn't as mean, but now I'm starting to kind of
there wasn't
feel like
as
that
much
wasn't
time.
accurate.
Yeah, the shows were like 10, 15 minutes long, so his true colors weren't showing.
But you know what? To Daddy-O's point, like his incompetence as a leader, it frustrates me at times. That is where I get my primary motivation to actually work out. And I feel like I've hit a lot of personal highs in the last 9 months as I've been going to the gym pretty consistently. I keep actually one of the original drawings of Daddy-O kind of next to me when I'm on the bench, and it kind of gives me that little extra burst of strength to really get my max up. And I've made pretty incredible strides. I could have been doing this for the past 6 years, and I just actually started a couple months ago. So I'm gonna disagree with you, Bridget. I feel like the stress that Daddy-O kind of puts on me, it's actually improved my overall physical health.
He's a warrior. He's a warrior, Bridget.
I like it. It's your own workout bonus. Yeah. All right, Daddy-O.
He is no snowflake. Yes. I am not an employee. I'm an employer. Therefore, I do not have to exercise. I actually have insurance and doctors, or of the rich variety. But yeah, that is that is all we got for that. But thank you, Bridget. And look, if you want more stress in your life, right? We know that money brings a lot of relief and relaxation. So if you get rid of your money, you're going to have more stress, you're going to have more drive and more motivation to work harder. So why not give your money to us by going to patreon.com/theageofsports.
Yes.
We have 6 or 7 patrons, if you will, right now. You can also go to vino.app/theageofsports, where we will give you insights and text. You can text back to us. We have 2 people. They've never texted back to us.
But Daddy, you have never told them what we're raising money for. I mean, like, one of the things for Sirius that we're trying to get, and this is not a joke, is we want to get a full-time intern who will fact check.
Right, the fact checker, yeah.
Quality.
Very expensive. Interns are very expensive now. They are no longer free, but yeah, we need to pay the intern.
Go out and even interview people for us. So if
we can get to,
we have someone in mind, but they want.
Well, we have someone. Yeah. We need about 10 or 20 more patrons, and we can afford the intern, and you will be amazed at what you'll see from the show. All right. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, turn on notifications, go to all the podcast platforms, and find the #1 Bengals podcast for Dr. Electric Ismoji and Bridget and John Johnny Mr. Sheeran. I'm Daddy McDuke. So long, sweetie. Pies.